Hey everybody, I'm going to be doing a fluid art underwater oceanscape for a couple of mermaids to live in. Now I'm just showing you my colors that I'm using for this piece that I'm doing this week, and this week is a Friday with Friends challenge week, and so the idea that we had was to do some form of fluid art or pour painting, and then we're going to mix in the next week. We're going to show how we paint in either an animal or some type of more realistic brushwork creation. So we're blending both, brushwork and fluid art. And so I chose to do this blowout that I'm doing here, kind of chaos looking style with I have Amsterdam white mixed with Aussie Floetrol, and I'm blowing this up and out like it's water. So I layer my colors from light to dark and blowing it up from the bottom to create kind of what looks like the depths of the water. And then this lower portion is going to be a swipe with some different metallic colors that will create kind of like the coral reef. And the mermaids will be swimming through, the frame of this picture when I'm all done. But that will be the following week. So the next week it'll be a two-parter, and the next week we will have our more realistic either animal or creature or whatever we came up with. So we're mixing both brushwork and fluid art. And I'm showing you there that I am swiping with my spatula, and I'm using Amsterdam Graphite mixed with Aussie Floetrol. I like it because it gives a metallic kind of look to the swipe with the lacing, but it's also not as dark as the black. And I'm going to be using some lamp black mixed with Aussie Floetrol also, just to kind of give it some depth and variation with these swipes. And I'm going to also show you a little later, I'm going to be using my airbrush to create some depth, and we'll talk more about that later when you get to it in that portion of the video. But as you can see here, I'm just with that cell activator on the back of my spatula. You want to lightly kind of press, but not press hard, just let it kind of glide over the top of the paints. And I like kind of what I'm getting. I like how those cells are popping up and you see the variation of cells and colors. Now I'm using that black just to kind of give it some more depth of field to create kind of this coral reef feeling to the bottom foreground portion of this. So this is kind of like you're looking through the water, and you can see the seafloor and the depths of the water. But it's kind of really neat to see this in such fast forward, so you see those cells just kind of popping up. And I have the black cell activator on the back of this metal spatula, and I'm angling it at a side because that way you get a more sharp linear line the way you want it to go through the painting. And it also has cells popping up along that line as well. So just kind of something that you can do to kind of create different shapes with your swipes. And you can see the beautiful sparkle that these metallics have. And I think I had some TLP unicorn and TLP mermaid mixed up in this. And so that, along with the gold, I think I had extreme sheen gold in there, 24 karat gold. So, and it looks pretty good. I like what I've got so far, but I'm adding some more white Amsterdam titanium white mixed with Aussie Floetrol cell activator there, just so I kind of get a little bit more white, kind of bubbly looking blowout. Just to give me another couple of plumes of that blowout kind of Shelly art style looking blowout. So I like that. I like what it's doing because it kind of looks like water, but it also looks like seaweed kind of in a way, with that kind of phthalo blue, kind of wispy, smoky looking through there. And now I'm using some white in a couple of swipes to kind of create more of a sense of that horizon line of the background to the foreground. So that is what I'm doing there. And I think it's looking pretty good. So now I'm taking my new airbrush and I have some phthalo blue mixed in there, and I'm going to use that. And this is a two-process airbrush where you have to push down the trigger and pull it back. And I'm just doing a little bit of a test airbrushing there to make sure everything is working all right, and it looks like it's working pretty well. Okay, so I have, with tracing paper, cut out my foreground areas with tracing paper so that I can spray up in this area with my airbrush and not mess up the foreground, so that it causes this to recede with this really vibrant aqua color, and this doesn't get ruined because I really love the swipe here. And that's the bottom, kind of the bottom of the ocean floor. And the mermaids are going to be kind of swimming through here. So that's what we're trying to do. Just give it a little area for the mermaids to swim in. Okay, so we're going to try and spray for our background, so we're making it less vibrant, making it recede into the background more, so we have something, you know, that's a little more subdued and gives us a little bit more depth to the painting. Okay, I'm liking that. I am liking that because overall it's like now more subdued, not so stark white, because we have way too much white looking stuff going on. And did not look really underwater. So you can kind of see when you take it off too, like what you got to do to the rest of this to kind of bring it in line. Freehand a little bit. So without having that there, I'm going to have to try to get rid of that hard line there. There's a little bit of a hard line there. So I use a damp paper towel and I blot in that area, and I'm adding a little bit of paint to it too, and just taking this piece of paper towel, and since it's damp, it's kind of pulling some of the paint up and kind of shading the area and getting, I've gotten rid of the hard line now, but now I just decided to start using it to kind of bring in highlights a little bit more where maybe it's gotten a little too blue in certain areas. So anyway, that's kind of a way you can kind of bring back, some of the highlights that you might have lost. I'm liking this much better now, because even those areas that were that really bright aqua color are now a bit darker, and there's a little bit more light and shade to them, and it almost looks like you're looking through coral and seaweed. So that did what I wanted it to. We've now created a little bit more depth of field to the background, where we'll have, hopefully our mermaids swimming through kind of this underwater kind of seascape, where that bottom part looks like the seafloor, like some coral, and the coral almost looks like it's glowing, so I'm really pleased with that. But yeah, overall, I think this shows you how you can use a airbrush to like kind of give your fluid art some extra depth. And you see me here, I'm still taking pieces of the damp paper towel that I've dampened with water and bringing in some highlights to those areas that kind of look like the plumes of like coral. And I think it kind of did what I wanted it to. So I was kind of pleased with this experiment to create a little bit more atmospheric quality to the background. Adding that atmospheric kind of mist of the phthalo blue also kind of made this whole thing now more cohesive, and it relates from the upper part to kind of what is considered the coral reef part below. And I'm just taking that wet damp paper towel now and still trying to bring some highlights back in certain areas. So this whole thing is really about kind of layering and putting more color value in and then subtracting. So we're adding and subtracting color here and there just to kind of give it this kind of more depth of field and volume. And so I think this was kind of a fun thing to do, and this is a first for me. I haven't really used my airbrush to do this, but I really think that it turned out good, and it actually was a good solution to the problem that I was having from the initial blowout with that aqua that was too flat and too bright. I want to thank you for watching. This is Friday with Friends, and up after me is Acrylic Art by Mary Kirk. I think Janet is out this week, but be sure and come back and see me again next week for part 2 of this challenge, where I will show you how my mermaids turn out.